Well, happy hump day, everybody. Welcome to Midnight Hatter Live, the weekly variety show where we talk Gundam, Gunpla, and gaming. I am Steven, aka Midnight Hatter, your host. Joining me as always, the Blue Gamer, Gundam explainer, Adam Blue. And tonight we have a special guest joining us, the organizer of RVAGunpla, a card-carrying member of IPMS, and the 2025 head judge of the Old Dominion Open, Nick LaPrade. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm all right, my man. I appreciate you guys having me on tonight.
No, thank you for coming on. This is a long
Absolutely.
overdue. We met late last year, I guess midsummer.
Yeah.
And it was such an embarrassing moment for me because here I've been creating Gunpla content on YouTube for like 8 years, and
Oh,
not
wow.
once did I ever think like, hey, engage with my local community and hang out with some of the people that are, we have such a diverse and talented group of people building here. I think Coop from the Undergated podcast put it best as he was like, it's the I-64 crowd. It's like
Yep.
everybody on I-64
Yep.
is a talented builder. So
The East Coast is a fantastic place for Gundam. So,
it is. And
yeah.
I never realized that until now. So I am so excited to have you here
Thank
to
you.
again bang the drum for us when it comes to local communities and just really connecting with people in an offline capacity where
Mhm.
it really matters.
Yeah. So, um, it's funny that you said that you started doing this about 8 years ago, because that's when we started doing our local group. It was about 8 years ago. So that's kind of a funny like synchronicity.
Yeah, it's man, it's funny how just life works like that. Maybe we
Hmm.
both had that bug in us where it was like,
The
we
zeitgeist,
really
right?
need
Yeah.
to we really need to do something about this. So
That's
that,
funny.
that brings me to perfect opening question is like, what brought you into Gundam and Gunpla as a hobby to start out with?
Yeah. So, like a lot of us, I watched Wing growing up. And
Yeah.
my grandma bought me my first kit when I was like 8 or 9. Snapped them up, played with them. They were toys. Fell out of it until like Seed came back. Built a couple of those, and then didn't really touch anything until about 2012, 2013 when Build Fighters came on. Um, I built the Fenice, I think, the HG, and then it was just like the engineering shift was so heavy from those little no grades to the new HGs, and I was like, and then I had the bug, and 12 years later.
That's cool.
Oh
Yeah.
man. So yeah, I mean, and it's so fascinating when you kind of grow. So when you snap together your first kit, did you even
Mhm.
have like nippers or any of that stuff, or did you
Nope,
just
it's
like
just like,
finger snap it?
chewing it out, and.
Wow.
Yeah, I used to use like nail clippers and all that good
Hmm.
stuff. So would you say that like now I'm sure at this point Wing is like far behind you in terms of what your favorite Gundam series is,
Oh
but does
yeah.
it still hold like a sentimental place in your heart?
It definitely does. I mean, it got me into this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have the community and the people that I have now if it wasn't for Wing. So yeah, it definitely is. I'm really looking forward to this year being the 30th. I have a dozen Wing kits. I'm probably just gonna build Wing all year long. I'm actually involved in a cool Wing build off this year. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about that, but it'll pop up sometime in the summer. So
Hey, we'll keep
so
our
that'll be
ears to
cool.
the ground. That's
Yeah.
like going back, and this was one of the best things about when I kind of cleaned out my stuff from back home is I brought all of my no grade Wing kits
Hmm.
that they're all busted and terrible
Yep.
looking. And I'm like,
Yep.
you know what? I'm gonna commit to not buying as many new kits and just focus on rebuilding and like cleaning up old Wing kits and
Oh,
making
that's
them.
fun.
That's right, because you sent me one recently. Yeah, he sent me
Yeah.
one of those no grade wing kits I haven't built before, and yeah, that's a good idea for this year to get that
That's a
going.
that'd be a fun build off idea. Just like
Yeah.
pull in your childhood kit and then clean it up, fix it up. That's a
Exactly.
lot of
And
work.
the year of Wing, it's
Year
upon
of
us.
Wing. Yeah.
Um, so as far as like, and it's so funny that, like you said, that you kind of built up this community around the same time that like I started creating
Yeah.
content around this stuff and this has always been a big question for me because you have such a great relationship with the hobby town in
Mhm.
in our area. Would you say that and this might be one of those chicken and the egg type questions. Would you say that like the location comes first or the people come first and then flock to the location? Because it's so cool the way that they have kind of like
Mhm.
just like Dr. Evil doing the whole like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
give me a hug.
It's a bit of a twofold answer, because I get a lot of people who ask me like, "What, how do I build this? What do I need?" And it's never a simple thing, but really to like make a based community or to have a strong community, you need like three dudes who really care about being there, and then you need a spot that really cares about having you there. And if you can find those two magical things, you can really get the ground running or hit the ground running. For us, it just kind of fell together. We had probably like late 2018, I guess. Um, my good friend PT Phones Hero on Instagram. Um, he was working at Hobbytown, and they were like Gundam had just started to kind of like get a little bit of buzz there because I had been shopping at that Hobbytown for a year or so, and they had like half a shelf of Gundam. I mean, you know what our shelves look like now, but
Oh,
we had like two little shelves with maybe 30 kits,
it was like a Hobby
and
Lobby.
yeah, basically like lower than that even. It was almost just an end cap, and I think the store had reached out to him about like, hey, do we want to do build night, or he wanted to do one, but anyway, he and I hit it off, and we just like ended up being four guys, and we just started hanging out on Fridays, and then more people started coming in. And before long, we had a group of 12 people that met kind of regularly. And then COVID happened, and things changed a lot.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
after COVID, I basically had to rebuild the group because most of the folks had like moved away from it.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, since COVID, we've built up and we have 25, 30 regulars now, and we have 15 or so kind of in the wings that hang out on the side.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
strong now.
ironically, like COVID really made the Gunpla hobby pop off again.
Hmm.
It was
Yeah.
like almost like a resurgence. And so then once things kind of opened up again, obviously a group like that, it blew me away the first night that I went to a build night. I was like, there's 30 people here. This is
Yeah.
wild. Like I
Yeah.
never in my wildest dreams would have imagined that you could get
Yeah.
that many people
We
just
need more
hanging out and
chairs.
talking. Like it's
And that's the nice thing. Our group, they just because everybody knows each other. We know whose mom's birthday, and all. We all go to dinner afterward, and all that kind of stuff. You know, everybody knows everybody, so everybody just comes in and chats. And there's a lot of people that just they don't even bring anything to build. There's so many nights that I go to build night and I don't snap a single part. I just talk to everybody.
That's cool.
So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
like that. Yeah, it's kinda like when I live stream sometimes, I've been trying to build more when I live stream, and
mhm.
I'm just sitting there talking, holding the piece. I'm
Yeah, that happens a lot.
yeah. It's fun though. I mean, that's what's cool
About
about it.
it.
There's so many little aspects of the hobby
Hmm.
to talk about. Yeah.
Absolutely. So then what would you say is the, most exciting thing about 2025 in the Gunpla world that
In
you're
the Gunpla world, in the Gunpla world, oh, I don't know.
well, we can make it a
In
two-part
my
question because
Gunpla world,
obviously we can
yeah,
talk about yeah.
yeah. Um, I love the NGSD line. Like I wanted that line for years. So I'm really hyped to see what comes out of that. I just got the Wing Zero over here. My
So
Barbatos
good
is still over
looking.
here, half built, and my Freedom's in the case. So I'm really excited. Hoping for a Zaku is the next one. But I'm really excited to see what comes out of that. Um,
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see what the next one is. I actually just built my first. It was
they're good.
the clear color Freedom from the Gundam base.
Ooh, yeah,
Normally
the
I would
Freedom's
avoid
cool.
yeah, normally I would avoid something like that. There's a lot
Hmm.
about it but there was something seeing it in person where I was like,
Yeah,
wait, actually in person, these are amazing. And
that's how I was about the. I'm like that with clear kits as well. With the Gundam base, I bought like a big. I think it's like the Master Grade Titus set with all three variants. I was just like, this
Oh,
box is gorgeous, and like I don't really like clear kits either. They're real funny. You have to build them a certain way.
yeah.
For me, they're funny. I'm not a like snap. You know, I don't straight build a lot of stuff. I usually like rough up the surface and I fix it when I go to paint it.
Yeah.
So it's like I got to be real delicate with that. It's almost like a new avenue I have to learn, just like being precise. But they look so cool.
yeah.
Like seeing them in person, I never like. It was totally different, like you said.
Yeah, it's a whole different skill set because
Hmm.
this is one of the things, like, I've been wanting to create, like, a video about just, like, the different types of plastic and how they behave under different treatments and
Oh
things like that,
wow,
like,
yeah.
just because there's so many benefits to working with a plastic like ABS
Mm,
versus your polystyrenes, and so there's like pros and cons and different ways to work with them. And then once you
mhm.
start getting into things like coatings and clear parts, that's like a whole different ball game. Like you don't.
Right. Like, speaking of that, I actually have, I just picked the Yakushiki up, the Master Grade, and I have the gold parts in the back soaking to like strip all the gold
Oh,
off because you say
wow.
that. So that's kind of funny.
That's cool.
Like it's crazy to me that every single Hyakushiki is either like just plain yellow or has the coating on it, and
Yeah.
neither one looks good. Like I spray painted all mine like the
Yeah.
kind of frosted gold because to me that's
Hmm.
always like the canon look. But
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact,
The gold.
the one I have that I really like is an action figure, not even a model kit,
Oh,
and
wow.
it just has it's that, fixed figuration line. Yeah,
Those are
it just
nice.
the gold
Yeah.
on it just yeah, it looks like you were saying, Steven. It looks a
Yeah.
lot better, yeah.
I actually like the gold on the Master Grade. It's a kind of like a very powdery, soft gold. It's barely gold. I really like that look, but I'm just like, I just like painting more. I want to paint, I wanna paint it.
understandable. Um, so yeah, like you said with Hobbytown welcoming you, especially in the previous conversations I've had with like Ricky Hoskins,
Hmm.
you know, it seems to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there was like that sort of similar welcoming vibe when Gundam came to IPMS, which traditionally military scale models, they kind of turn their nose up at sci-fi and Gundam and things like that. But I think that there has been, and I think this is due in no small part to the work that you have put in with in your own chapter, is like
Hmm.
it's almost like, oh, this is how we get kids into the
Yeah.
hobby, right?
And it's a lot of that. It's a bit of a twofold answer for the question you asked me a minute ago. Things I'm looking for in my personal hobby is just the growth of Gundam at IPMS. Um, when we started, when I first went to ODO, the Old Dominion Open, which is coming up in February, um, we weren't well received at all. Like, they really didn't care for us too much.
Wow.
It's taken a lot of work to the first two guys who used to run it. I think they kind of got tired of dealing with that difficulty. And then when I took over, it was just like, I don't care. I'm going to run this as our own show inside of a big show. And then from just doing that for a couple years, they got to know us and they got to, be around us and they got to know me a bit. And there's still that particular group because the people who run IPMS ODO aren't my group. They're the Richmond based group. My group's one in South Side, which is a little bit south of here.
Right.
Um, they're very open and very welcoming to Gundam. Like, my president understands that we're the future of the hobby and that we're
Yeah.
not going anywhere and we will carry the torch.
Interesting.
The group that runs ODO is coming around to that. They're starting to understand and they've been very welcoming. Like, last year was the first year they've like, hey, come do stuff with us. We want to talk to you guys. And that's a really exciting moment to be part of when it's like, okay, we're not the outcasts anymore. We're now like part of the fold. And I've seen a lot of people online, they still talk about, like I've said, being snubbed and everything.
Yeah.
It's a tricky slope and it's going to take us some more time, but we'll get there. We just have to keep being patient. We got to keep doing it. And there's an old joke that used to go around that, like, we'll just wait, with IPMS, we'll just wait. We're not going anywhere. They are.
Yeah.
But I'd rather be friends and, because we all build plastic models,
Right.
same
And
stuff. It's just,
it's like you said, it's definitely chapter by chapter, and in
hmm.
my experience what's been interesting is just like learning from each other, because obviously
Yes.
there's a wealth of knowledge that Gunpla builders can get from like the old
Yeah.
masters, right?
Oh,
But at the
absolutely.
same time, what was fascinating to me at the Hobbytown model contest back last July
Right.
was the number of military scale modelers that were asking Gundam builders
Hmm.
like, "What, tell me what's the deal with these kits? Like, why,
Yeah.
what's so special about them? Like, wait, they're articulated, like, you
Hmm.
get." And so it's like, even though it's different, it's not there's definitely less of the
It's not
condescension.
foreign.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because that's been a cool thing with my group is like a lot of the guys that are in my particular IPMS are people who came from the other group who were kind of like, I'm I'm tired of the I'm not gonna say elitism, but like people just not being as friendly as they could be.
Mhm.
And over the past year and a half of hanging out with them, more and more of them have started to build Gundams and to do little things. And they're like, this is fun. This was a fun afternoon snap. And it's like, yeah, it's a good time. And I think they're starting to kind of understand that, like, to understand why we enjoy it so much. And they're starting to see that it's more a creative outlet than it is like, oh, I have to have the right mud from France in, 1942 or whatever. I
Yeah.
can paint it pink and it's cool. Okay, awesome.
And
So,
what was cool is that, like, seeing guys that were like, "Oh, no, I wanna take a Zaku and I want, like, Normandy brown on the feet, like, I wanna make
mhm.
this thing like, I wanna put a Stahlheim on it, I wanna make it look like it
I
is
think you talked to my
authentic."
president. That's like,
Exactly.
that's all he talks about. He's like, I just want to do the rice patties and Vietnam. Like, go for it. You put some Zakus in
Hell yeah, man. And that stuff is fun because you get to start crossing genres and you
there.
get to like you said, it's the ultimate expression of creativity as
Hmm.
opposed to, pure, what's the
Like
word I'm looking for? Recreation?
historical accuracy. Yeah,
Yeah, historical accuracy.
Mm.
because that's most of their models. It's just like I got to make the exact thing that existed, and like I always look at Gundam as the scale model as like a medium, like an art. You know,
Yeah.
I've done art shows with my Gundams, and it's been really interestingly successful. And I think they're starting to kind of understand that notion.
Yeah, for sure, and because, yeah, you can go both ways with it, and there you can even do recreations, like, I mean, how many people have recreated, like, that iconic scene from, 8th MS Team of the Easy 8,
Hmm.
like, swinging its
Oh
arm?
yeah.
There is an aspect of that, faux historical accuracy to it,
Hmm.
right?
It's
Uh,
accuracy to Gundam, right?
yeah.
Gundam lore.
And that's a debate that happens all the time, like, "Well, actually, this
Yeah.
this this model this mobile
This
suit
model.
wouldn't be wearing those colors."
Yeah, they don't. Gundams don't rust.
So tell me about how you got into judging. Was it, like, kind of a, just right person, right time, or wrong person, wrong time if you were trying to, like, compete?
uh, I went to a show. I didn't have anything. They said you're judging because we need a judge. I was like, okay. And
Yep,
then
you got
I think I
voluntold.
did. I did a local show at Hobbytown, and then I judged a couple of events, like small things, and then last year was actually the first year I judged at ODO, and this year I'm like the sole head judge. Last year we had two head judges. It was me and another guy, my friend Zach over at Hobbytown, Virginia Beach, and then this year it's just me. So,
A
so
lot,
yeah,
no
we got
pressure.
no pressure, no pressure. I'm actually looking to put together like last year we had two judge teams. I took a team of like because we have a group of like 5 or 6 people here that don't mind judging. So
Yeah,
I took one set and he took the other set. But this year, I'm looking to actually bring people in from outside of our group and let people just that come to shows get a chance to learn how to judge and to get new experiences because you learn so much when you sit down and judge. Because like you can build and snap and fix stuff all day, but when you look over a model and you see the way other people have solved those problems, you learn so much.
Mhm.
And
yeah,
I'm blown away every time I do it just by somebody's creativity or their thought process. So
yeah, and every competition's different, like, right? So, typically, you're working from criteria that are given to you. It's not a popularity contest. It's not
yeah,
like
no, it's not.
you're, you have a checklist of things that you're looking for, um, and then it's kind of your responsibility to find those things.
Yeah.
So, what is that like being? It's almost like you are, scrutinized for being the scrutinizer, if that makes sense?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. There that is a whole thing, especially with our community of like, well, who's the judge? Where's their work? I want to look at their work. I'm like,
What does it matter?
why? Like, what does it matter? We did a show for Mecha Warehouse last summer, Mech, and I judged that with old school Gunpla and a couple of my local guys and a couple of his guys. And we did reviews with people at the end, and some of them told one of my friends who doesn't have any online presence, but he's an incredibly talented modeler. He's very vast knowledge of stuff. He just doesn't post online because he doesn't care.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Well, I want to see your work." I'm like, "Well, you don't know nothing." It's like, no, this guy knows as much as I do. I picked him myself. Shut up. But it's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
And that stuff is such it's such vanity anyway, like, who posts what and
Yeah, a lot of times because like I barely post anything these days. I care more about what I'm doing here. I'm online all the time, but I still post. Um,
no, I think that goes back to what we were saying at the top of the show is it's like being in the moment and being with the people
mhm,
around you and not constantly creating for content, but for
yeah,
creating for
creative.
creation's sake.
Yeah,
That's very cool, man.
yeah.
Um, so, oh man, there was the thought I had and then I
Right,
lost
you're
it.
good. I didn't answer your question though for like what I look for when I judge. Sorry, I went like way down the rabbit hole. Um, a lot of the stuff, like when I start looking at a model and when I show other people how to judge stuff, the most important thing for me is your basics. Like
Yeah.
anybody who's watching now in the future, whatever. If you want to go to a show, like you gotta have your basics down. If you want to compete, if you want to genuinely compete, because I go to shows and I like to enter models for fun. I like to compete. It's fun. It's a good time. But there are people who are like diehard serious. I got to do this. I got to win. I'm gonna be upset if I don't. Don't be like that. Don't go to a
No.
show for that reason. But if you do want to compete seriously, like your basics need to be perfected. Like your nub removal, your seal removal, your paint application, all that kind of stuff. That's the first stuff we look for. Is can I see cracks where the seams aren't sealed right? Can I see like wafering in the paint? Is your decal silver? Can I see where you didn't fully top coat everything and there's like a little bit of gloss and there's the rest of it's flat? Did you have a nice even paint job? And then usually once we like check all those boxes, it's like, all right, how well did they execute what they were trying to execute? Like, okay, they were weathering it. They wanted a weather dirty build. How well did they pull that off? Is the weathering everywhere or is it where it should be, like feet up?
Yeah.
Um, what kind of chipping did they do? Did they do that kind of stuff? Is it a super clean build? Is that what their aim was? How well did they execute that? Is there LEDs? Did they execute those LEDs well? Did they hide wires? Their base, how well is their base integrated in with the model? It's a whole bunch of stuff. But that's the way we go about it. We start at the basics and we build out from there.
Yeah.
I
So
got a question.
yeah.
Let's say you're looking at one that is very creative. It's executing its idea well, but you're noticing like obvious areas where maybe nubs or seams could be fixed. Will you sometimes look over the basics? If
Nope. I
okay,
don't
so that
I don't I am a tough
okay,
judge. I never look over basics.
okay, so that it
Um
has to be like a baseline. Like you got to
yeah,
get these core.
that's
Okay,
my
interesting.
baseline.
Yeah. Okay.
So and a lot of times, like if we get two builds that are like stand out and they're kind of above everything else, and they're just really killing it, and it's really hard between the two. That's what it'll come down to sometimes. And I'm like, all right, this one, they did their basics
Oh,
a little bit poorer than this one over here. These panel lines aren't as clean. Or like, oh, I found a number two over here. They didn't do all that extra work. And then that will bump one up above the other one. So it's like even if something is super, super good, super solid, um, because there are some builds out there that are extremely detailed, extremely built out, and extremely, you look at it and you're like, holy crap, that's going to win. But then you look at it and you find the flaws. So
No,
I take a flashlight. I judge with a flashlight.
okay.
I'm gonna find them.
That's a good point because that actually helped you kind of explained it. Like if there could be these two that are completely different concepts
Mhm.
and they're amazing because they're completely, and it's like, well, which one? You want to go to the basics. So that
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
yeah.
That's a
That's
good
the
answer.
only thing, honestly, that
Yeah.
you can use, especially, you've had to judge a lot of competitions where,
mhm,
you're maybe comparing one that's just a basic kit that's been painted compared to something that's like a dio piece or it's like
mhm,
based in a very creative way. And so it's like,
yeah.
how do you compare apples to oranges in that
Yeah,
sense
that's
where
when it gets hard, when you have to
that's
compare like that kind of thing, where it's like, okay, this is a beautifully built, just like standalone model, and then there's another thing over here that's got like a big diorama or like platforms. They did all this extra work, and it's like, yeah,
it's
it's
that,
like, okay, which one? That's what I was talking about of the idea of like who executed better. Like, okay,
yeah.
is the diorama just as well executed as the bait as the model? Because sometimes people will just add a diorama at the end. I mean, I've done it before. I'm not trying to knock everybody, and it's like it's not as well integrated to the model as maybe it could be, and that will knock points for when I'm looking at them. So
100%. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, you come from the art world, like, the local
Yeah.
art scene here in Richmond, so, like, that you are so dialed into critiques
Hmm.
and reviews in that sense anyway, so you kinda have that experience inbuilt
Yeah.
even from outside the scale
Yeah.
modeling world.
Yeah. That's like you said, my background is illustration. And I think that's part of why I enjoy shows so much, because so much of my like education was putting my art in front of other people and having them like rip it in half.
Mm.
And
Right.
it's like stressful and terrifying, but there's also like a camaraderie you build with people. And I think that's why I enjoy shows, because it's like I get to take this thing that I've been working on here by myself and put it out and let my friends look at it and then get feedback. And that's m- less important. That's more important to me than like taking home a trophy.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna say that goes back to what you were saying is, like, if you're entering a competition solely to, like, win it, and that's what your ego is tied up into, then you're not gonna have a good time regardless of whether you win it or not. Whereas, coming to the show and enjoying the community that there is and just being like, no one is the best modeler in the world. Like, there's
no,
always gonna be someone that can
there's always somebody
outperform
better.
you on their
Yeah.
day. So it's like there's always something you can learn from someone else.
Yeah. Unless you're
Um,
what's his name, the paint pusher. He's a like 5, 6 time GBWC champion. He's crazy. Anyway, yeah, there's a saying that I've had for years, and anybody who is watching me because they know me knows what I'm about to say. And I tell a lot of people this, and I will say it until I'll probably put it on my tombstone. Um, is that the trophy you take home is the model that you built, and I live by that philosophy. Um, if you can't go to a show happy with what you made, you shouldn't take it to the show, because then you're gonna go home bummed. Like I could have done this better, I could have done that better, and that's
yeah.
actually the problem I've had with the build I've been working on, because I'm not like it's not a trophy for me yet. I need this to be tighter and tighter. I know I can do better, and then I'm just stuck in the weeds.
Well, so that's a great a great kind of segue into that conversation is when do you define a project? When do you define a build as complete? Do you
Ooh.
subscribe to any philosophies about like finished not perfect, or do you think that
Mm.
like you're always going to continue working on a piece until you're happy with it?
The second part definitely applies sometimes. I have a bunch of things that's like I did a HG wing over last summer, and it was like I got it to a fit point where the whole thing was finished, and I'm like, I really want to weather it, but I don't want to do that right now, so I might go back to it later and weather it. I have a few models, so I'm like, that was clean, but it would look a little cooler if I muddied it up. Maybe I'll go back and do that. I have builds that I've finished and then gone back a year later and built in a diorama, a base. I think it's more about like what you feel it needs at the time, and then where maybe you want to take a vision. Like sometimes you just build something and you're like, this is cool, and you paint. I'm like, oh, I'm happy with that. And then a while later, you just get another idea for it, and like, oh, I can incorporate that. I started building a base for another model, for some random model, I don't remember, but I liked the platform that I built, but the model was too big, and I was like, oh, I'll just pivot. I'll pull the whole new model in, and it just was more about the base, and it's just like that sometimes.
I was
I
gonna
don't know if
say
that
that's
answers the question, but
no, I mean, because it was so funny. I remember, like, it was a few days ago. I think you posted to your Instagram stories, like, you were working on that diorama, and you were like, "Oh, I'm gonna hack it to pieces," and like,
no, yeah,
you weren't happy with it. Like, so there's definitely and everyone in my audience and Adam and I talk about this frequently. Is I basically live like whips on whips on whips. I
that's how I
never
am.
finish anything.
Yeah.
And, so it's, where do we draw that line? Not like putting you on the spot, but like where do
Hmm.
we as hobbyists
Yeah,
draw that line where it's
I
like
know.
we need to deliver something by a deadline and have like
Yeah.
a product, not a project.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think it just depends on like when you're happy. Like,
Yeah.
like I am content with this being complete. You're talking about whips on whips, like one of my cabinets that's just what it is. It's just whips. Like,
Yeah, that's how it is.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
yeah, it's great. And then sometimes I'll forget about something that I already had planned out, and I'm like, "Oh,
Hmm.
wait a minute, I know I can execute on that now,"
Yeah.
and
Sometimes
that's
that's what you need. You need to like, I
yeah,
have this idea, I'm gonna rough it out, and then and you put it in a box, and a year or two later you've advanced and you come back to it.
yeah.
And that's always exciting too, because you're like, oh crap, I can make that thing now. I know how to do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah. And I think that's the other added value of not only attending those shows, but to kind of go back to disagree with myself earlier when we're talking about people sharing content. Like
Mhm.
one of the things I definitely encourage people to do is to share their builds.
Yes.
Obviously there's going to be negativity that comes at you, but I think that what you'll find is, especially in the Gunpla community, more people are willing to jump in and help than they are to
They are.
denigrate and bash.
absolutely.
And it
And
depends on where you post things too. Like there are
all
places
very
where
true.
people are just it's like anonymous and they don't care and they're just there to shit on people.
Yeah, yeah.
And but then there are other times where you're like, oh, I like this. That's what drew me to Instagram. I used to
Mhm.
when I first got into the online scene, I was on Facebook and in a couple of Facebook groups. And then I discovered Gunpla Talk way back in the day, and this is dating me, like way back in the day with
Oh,
like
yeah.
True Gunpla, not True Gunpla, Child of Mecca and Saku Aurelius and Justinius Builds and um, Gunpla UK and all those guys. And I got into the deeper community that way.
Yeah.
And then I found Instagram, and then it was like off to the races because old Instagram was fun. It was a great place to be, a share, to
Yeah.
communicate, to network. Now it's just ads and reels.
It
Boy,
really is, yeah, it's gotten to be kind of overwhelming, but there
yeah,
there are still some shining spots if you can curate
there
your
are.
feed enough. I mean, one of the things that really blew me away, and this is one of the more inspiring things, is like, when I met Pencil Knights and saw the
Pencil.
work that he was doing
Hmm.
with LEDs, I was like, it basically kinda lit a fire under me. I was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
now I need to kinda get my shit together and
Yeah,
and step up
Pencil's
my
a cool
game."
dude. He's
So
been coming
awesome.
and hanging out with us for 4 years now, since COVID, since we came back from COVID to like ODO and everything. And his bases have evolved. He's one of those guys that like I've watched evolve and change and grow over the years, and it's just like you're my boy, you're awesome. I never really get too much of a chance to like hang out with him whenever he comes because he's like a big photographer, so he's
Yeah.
like shooting everything, and I'm like I'm not getting this man's way. He's on a mission. I'm gonna bug you this year, Pencil. I'm gonna bug you.
Hell
Um,
yeah, man. Yeah, and it's fascinating the number of people that we've had on the show that we've talked to that it's like, "Oh, no, I only started building Gunpla in, like, 2023," and I'm
mhm.
like, "Dude,
Yeah,
I have been building since I
talented
was
people.
13 years old, and
Hmm.
you are, like, at a level that I cannot even fathom." So it brings me no small amount of pride and, joy to see the way that people are able to I think, you and Coop from Undergated put it best as, like, iron sharpens iron, and
That is Coop saying, and I have stolen it. I love Iron Sharpens Iron.
so good.
So,
Like, ever since he said that, I was like,
hmm,
"Amen, brother." Like, that's
yeah,
because I've seen the impact
oh yeah,
of communities that feed off of one another, and, like,
hmm,
individual builders will just completely excel and get
yeah,
extremely talented extremely quickly.
yeah,
Um,
oh yeah. And that's like not to like spotlight me or anything, but like that's one of my favorite things about our community is that because of ODO and our luck in having that event here, and because of Richmond's like central location to so many things, so many builders have come from other areas and kind of revolved around our group and then made their own groups and made these big groups, and then just the skill level explodes. And it's like Coop. Coop's another guy that I've watched like come with straight builds a couple of years ago, or just like simple paint jobs, and now he's like winning GBWC regionals. Just like you're the man. Like, and he like the whole iron sharpens iron thing. Like that dude chases me, and I love it. He keeps me on my toes. He's like I have a couple of people who keep me on my toes, but he is absolutely one of them. So,
yeah, that those are the kind of people you wanna surround yourself with
mhm,
are the people that are always pushing you to do better. So it's like I said, it's one of the joys that I've had from
yeah,
interacting with you, interacting with Undergated, meeting all these local people, and
hmm,
seeing that just seeing the support that comes from it. So it's
yeah, and
very,
like
very cool.
our local group, because you're in our group now, I stole you. Official United and all that whatnot.
Yeah,
We have some crazy builders. I mean, Hoskins House, Ricky's in here. Pixelli's World, she's ridiculous. Roku Claw for the people who have been around for a long time, amazing weathering. MSO6, he's sick with hand painting. If y'all don't follow him, go check him out. My buddy Chris. I mean, we just have so many talented people.
stacked, so stacked.
I mean, we are. It's really awesome.
Yeah, and that was, man, when I showed up at GBWC last year to our local show, I was like, man, RVA
We
brings the heat,
we bring the heat,
heat.
man, and that's we can talk about the shows and all that at some point. Um, IPMS Nationals, the big convention. I mean, ODO is a bit bigger actually, but Nationals is the big one for the year. It's in Hampton, Virginia this year. If you live
Wow.
in Virginia and you build Gundam, you can come to Nationals. I beg of you, because that's where we're going to really make our mark on IPMS. And I'm going to try to bring the ODO crowd as much as I can
Show
there.
up, yeah.
So yeah.
So yeah, tell us more about ODO and like what the because obviously it's divided up in categories and
Hmm.
for those watching like on YouTube, obviously links to ODO and our IPMS chapter are down in the description below. But yeah, I want to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Yes, so the IPMS ODO is the Old Dominion Open. It's been an IPMS event for, I don't know, the better part of 15 years, maybe longer. They meet every year, like usually it's the last weekend of February, at the Richmond Raceway, sorry, here in Richmond. Um, it's we have thousands of models, dozens of vendors. I mean, there people come from all over the country to come to this because it's right up there with nationals. I don't know which one's bigger. Um, it's my show. Radio's bigger. I don't care. But ODO if it's not the biggest, it's the second biggest show. It's one of the more popular ones. Richmond IPMS puts that show on every year. It's very well organized. It's very well put together. Those guys really know what they're doing. They've been curating it for a long time. As far as Gundam goes, we have had a spot there for the last 5 or so years. We have currently 5 categories. I wasn't able to I got us a new one last year. I wasn't able to expand it this year. Next year I'm gonna get them. But so our 5 categories, just to jump right in. So we have two 1/144 category, 1/144 categories, and two 1/100 categories. It's 1/144 UC, 1/144 non-UC, and then 1/100 UC and 1/100 non-UC. And then we have an on base category, which is basically like if you have something that's on a complex base, a diorama, basically. Um, that goes in that category. But any other platform based something it's standing on would go in the standards. So those all compete individually for first, second, third in their own categories, and then the first place of each 5 categories goes on for a Gundam Best of Show, which is awesome that we have that.
Yeah,
So
that's fantastic.
yeah.
And I love that it's divided into categories like that
Hmm.
um that are so distinct from one another, and then
Yeah.
you can, it's like we said earlier, it's when you're comparing apples to oranges, maybe it's not necessarily fair, but then to have a
Hmm.
best in show is
Yes.
obviously excellent. But to
Yeah.
your point, I mean, yeah, more categories would be fantastic. Like
Yeah.
obviously, if there's categories dedicated more towards like the narrative piece versus
Hmm.
something that's like raw skill versus
Yeah. Which is why I got us an on base. I wanted to call it diorama. They call it on base. They had like a whole diorama category that's just for models on dios, and they wanted to differentiate it from that, so they
yeah, I
called it
like
on
that.
base. But on base makes it like confusing for a lot of our guys,
Yeah,
because it's like, is an action base on base? No, it's just a normal category.
yeah,
Don't put it in there. But that was the thing, that because like people started coming here and like I build bases and one or two other guys build bases, and then it got to where it was like, oh, if you don't have a base, you're really selling yourself short. You need like, and that was the mindset of everyone. And
yeah,
then so it was just like, we need a category for that. But I really want to get added a snapped or an out of box category. ODO does, or IPMS has out of box categories. Theirs are a bit different because IPMS out of box are considered basically like, our out of box is like snapped stickers, whatever. Anything that's in the box. IPMS out of box, from my understanding, and I might be wrong, is you don't do anything extra to it. You just, everything that's on the model is what came in the box. So you can paint it, you can do all that stuff. It's just what came in the box.
right.
Because they do like custom parts and metal etch and
Yeah, I've seen some wild stuff like,
yeah.
scratch building like straight up out of aluminum, like, and
Yes, you
yeah, I
get
mean,
nuts.
there's some crazy stuff that those guys
They
do, and
are
it's all, I
crazy.
mean, it's all fantastic. So
Yes.
I like that differentiation between out of box, you know, from like your traditional military armors,
Mm-hmm.
aircraft type stuff, and then Gundam because Gundam, like, yeah,
Ours
to
is
your
different.
yeah,
It's different.
it's
Yeah,
a different vibe.
it is.
Because I mean, let's be honest, like most of those militaries, you're gonna have to use airplane glue anyway to put them
Mm-hmm.
together.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
yeah, you're not just snap welding those. Which is why I
No.
encourage everyone who builds Gundams to like build one military model at
Yeah,
least once
and
in your
like
life.
you know,
Yeah.
just find one you like. It's the Shinden for -1. Just find one that piques your interest and go for it. Like
Yeah,
Yeah,
expand
that's
your horizons.
for me, because I honestly, didn't uh, build Gunpla until kind of recently, but
Mhm.
my first model kit was actually in the 90s, and it was a Darth Vader TIE fighter. And so, yeah, that
Oh,
was with
cool.
blue. And I remember building that and being like, wow, this is a lot of work,
Yeah.
putting
yeah.
that together.
Have you
Um,
built any of the newer Star Wars kits?
just I think I built the small, I forget what scale it's in, but an X-wing. And then I was actually getting
Mm.
the figures,
Oh, the figures
like
are nice.
like
I
the
like.
Boba Fett, because I love
Mhm.
the detailing part. So I would get the Boba Fett, and you guys were talking about accuracy earlier. I was getting the Boba Fett, and I had it painted just like he was
Yes,
in Empire Strikes Back, like trying to make it
absolutely.
accurate. I'm like that with my Gunpla too, actually, and I think it's really because I've only been a recent convert. It was like
Mhm.
2019 when I got into the Gundam, and so I'm so into the lore and stuff. So I'm the type that I like to make it like, but I'm sure in the
Exact.
future I'll
Yeah.
start
He's
It's kind
untainted
of
by
funny.
man.
I was the opposite. Like when I first started, all of my stuff was like custom, and I was like, I gotta do custom paint
That's
schemes. I
cool.
gotta make it unique. Now I'm like, nah, I just want to make the thing that it's supposed to look
Oh,
like.
that's neat.
There's otherwise too much work.
That's cool that it, yeah, flipped like that. There's
Yeah, I
something
don't know why.
to there's for me, and I think I do this with other things too. There's something to like being limited to what,
Hmm.
almost like that out of box build you're talking about. Sometimes
Hmm.
when you're limited, it's like, okay, how far can I go
Oh yeah,
to really
that's
make
true.
this look good within the bounds
Hmm.
that I have? So
I mean, that's where creativity thrives, in my opinion. It's like,
With
I'm a
restraint.
big
Yeah.
soccer fan, and it's like if you took the rule of like not being able to use your hands out of soccer, then like
It's
then
just
what's the
rugby, right?
point? Yeah, it's
yeah,
rugby. So the true brilliance comes from the limitations, and so
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, even if they're arbitrary limitations, if you say to yourself like, I'm only going to use hand paints on this kit and like not going to
Mm.
spray anything like that, get creative with it. You might learn something new.
That's actually speaking of hand painting. That's a category that I was trying to get this year. Was a Machine and Krieger category. 'Cause when you come to ODO, there's so many Machine and Krieger models, and they don't have a home. They're just going sci-fi. We need a Machine and Krieger category.
Yeah,
Trying.
that's a very good point. I mean, and there's so many like different anime categories that just end up thrown in
Yeah.
sci-fi. It's
Yeah.
like but I guess so that's a good question, is like, so as someone who participates in the organization of these events, like what do you do when people show up and it's like, okay, we don't have enough Star Wars for the Star Wars category, let's like lump them into to
Yeah.
sci-fi,
It's
like
that's when things get real tough because when Gundam started, they were just lumped into sci-fi, and I'm pretty sure at nationals we're just in sci-fi. I don't.
Ah,
I don't. Gundam hasn't gotten its own category. It might have its own like part of sci-fi, but it's still in like an ODO. Gundam is its own thing. It's all by it has a best of Gundam. It's its own sets. But I think at most other shows, Gundam's just in sci-fi. So it's like yeah, if somebody shows up with a bunch of where do these Star Wars figures go? Well, they just go in figures. Just stick them over there. Well, I've got a giant robo model. I got a big O model. Where does that go? Well, it just goes in sci-fi ground type. I don't know. So it gets like really because sometimes it's difficult to just add a category because it's like, okay, well, just somebody shows up with one of a thing,
oh yeah,
you know.
congratulations, here's your medal, like
Yeah,
that is
and basically that happens.
It almost reminds me of this video game awards where people are complaining about what games are what category. Because sometimes it is
Um,
kind of hard to do that.
yeah,
Sometimes it's obvious if a game is a certain category, or sometimes it's like, well, maybe, but it kind of doesn't. It's not fair in a way, just in
yeah,
terms of how different maybe that might be. Yeah.
and that's a lot of the questions people message me usually. Like probably after this, the next 2 weeks,
Oh.
I'll be asking category questions. Everybody's gonna be like,
Oh.
"Where do I put this?" But
That's cool.
So
Yeah,
But there's so
the
many. So,
oh,
oh, go ahead.
sorry.
oh, yeah, no, sorry, but talking about other things, Gunpla has gotten me into detailing and building other things, and just today I ordered the, Kiryu MFS3, which is the Mechagodzilla from the 2002,
Hmm. I know.
uh, yeah, I can't
Yeah.
wait because I'm gonna
Dude, that's so
apply
awesome.
it's like because this is one where it's metal, right? The
Hmm.
Mechagodzilla, but the
Yeah.
plastic obviously doesn't look like that,
Is
kind of
that
like
the
Yakashiki, and so
is
this
that the
is
Kodo?
me. What's that?
Is that Kodo?
Oh,
I
the
can't remember
brand?
what. Yeah, I can't remember which one makes it.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. It's
it
really
starts with
nice.
an A, like,
Oh, maybe.
I can look that up real quick,
Yeah, you're
actually, but
good.
what's interesting is that it's like, okay, I'm at the point now, I've learned so much from building Gunpla that I know that I could get this Mechagodzilla and do it right,
Yeah.
like, actually paint it, because that's the thing I wanna be yeah, looked online or yeah, I was able to look up again how other people are very helpful. I was able to find out online what the best paint to use for that is,
Mm.
and it's Aoshima is the brand.
Oh, okay.
Aoshima,
Yeah,
yeah,
I couldn't remember.
Hmm.
Such
but
a good model, though.
that's cool, but yeah, can't wait for that.
Yeah, dude, Gunpla gets you into so many things. Like honestly, I've
Yeah.
snap built so many Gundams that like putting together my daughter's crib was like, man, I've got this. These are life
Easy.
skills that you're building here.
Yeah, basically.
Um, so what is your favorite Gundam series now that you're
G Gundam.
Oh,
G
another
Gundam. G
one,
Gundam's my
not
favorite.
another one. Here I thought we could be
Yeah,
friends.
baby. Absolutely. Hey, man, I'll fight you. Um, no, G Gundam is it's a series I can just watch. Like I watched it twice last year, like back to back. Um, it's just G Gundam reminds me of why I started liking Gundam to start with because it's a little silly. It's fun. The suits are all cool. It actually there's a lot of depth in it if you really give it time.
yeah.
Um, it's just fun. I like it. My big project I've been working on now is a G Gundam kit, and yeah, G Gundam's my favorite. Like
I
it's my
mean, it's so
go-to. So
self-aware. Like it's
yeah,
hard
it
not to
is.
appreciate it. It
Yeah,
like for what's there. So
yeah,
no, that's cool.
yeah. I was eating good last year with all those P Bandais. So
That's
Well, so that's a great topic is because like Adam and I are huge. Well, I don't want to throw Adam under the bus, but I know I am a huge P Bandai apologist or
yeah,
whatever
oh
you
yeah.
want to
Oh, I'm a P
shill,
Bandai enjoyer or
yeah.
whatever.
yeah, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, what do you as far as like the scale modeling industry, where do you stand on things like P Bandai
I
and
love P Bandai.
yeah,
My local group, we get a lot of P Bandai. Sometimes we'll do group orders when people want like all we all want one of these, so we'll pitch in together and cut the shipping out. But
yeah,
like I think people hate P Bandai from what P Bandai was like 3 years ago. P Bandai is like any other release now. You just have to buy it online. You can't get it in store. It's no
right,
different than like when a normal release comes out. They're gonna have it. They're gonna put it back on sale in like 2 months if you miss the first one. They fix the cast scalper problem, the bot problem. Only like the crazy stuff immediately sells out. And it's like I don't have a problem with P Bandai. I got a bunch of them yesterday.
That's a
Like I love
way
P Bandai.
to get things that I don't think would be made any other way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like I was talking with the G Gundam kits. A lot of people were like, these should have been regular releases. And it's like, on the one hand, I do understand that, I feel that. But on the other hand, we got more engineering out of them, and we got all these extra parts and add-ons and accessories and effect parts that we would not gotten as a normal release. They
right.
wouldn't have done that stuff. So I was
No,
like, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
They're not hard
and
to get. You can find all that stuff on Surrengire right now. Free shipping.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
yeah, I
true.
love that place. I get the little mobile suit ensembles. I don't know if you're familiar with
Heck
those?
yeah. I am
Yeah.
now.
Okay, yeah, I love those. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, I really do feel like that type of pre-order,
Mhm,
especially now, it's so easy to, you don't have to wait for a production model to be produced for
mhm.
photography. Like they're basically just using the CG art for,
Yep.
hey,
They
this
just
is
put it
what
out
it's
there.
going to look like. And it's a perfect way for Bandai to gauge interest in a product before
Yes.
committing 100% to it. And one of the
I
things that
agree.
I've noticed is for the things that get really popular, if they do sell out multiple times, my favorite example of this is the Lindworm, that like
Mm.
Bawu Zeta
Hmm.
kit, that has been re-released like 3 or 4 times at this
Yeah.
point, and
Yeah.
every time it drops by like $2 or $3 because they're
Yeah.
like, well, you know, and
They're
so
gonna buy
yeah, you know, it's like, hey,
it.
if it, I mean, I feel like a sucker for having paid 64 for it when now it's like 52, but
Same. Same.
but
But it's a good kit. Like it's cool. It's elegant. There's like the what is it, Rebawa, the like red with the Xeon logos and stuff.
yeah, man.
Very good.
Dude, I miss the. I'm so sad that they discontinued the RE100 line because that,
Yeah, I'm too.
like,
It was a good line.
you know, I know that a lot of people are, you know, the master grade supremacists where it's like, oh, you know, if it's not 1/100 and an inner frame, I don't want to touch it. But like,
Yeah.
I don't know, something about the high grades has a charm to it. What
And
would
that's
be
what I
your
think
favorite?
made the yeah, that's what I think made the REs and like the full mechanics so nice because they had that like simplicity of a HG, but the like niceness of a master grade. It's like, I like these lines. I don't see what
Yeah.
people fuss about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those smaller details just look nicer in that kind of bigger
Hmm.
proportion. Um, yeah, I agree. I think like I love and what they would do is they would come out with a master grade and then the RE100 of what would be go along with it. Like
Yeah,
we got
yeah,
the
I like that too.
52 Verka and then the Gun Easy
Hmm.
RE100 or the what was it? The Alex when they came out with the
with the
Oh
Zaku
Zaku
yeah, they did
Alex
the
when they came
Zaku
out with the Zaku RE.
FC. Yeah,
Yeah, and it was nice. Great.
yeah, it's really good kits.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, so what's your favorite grade to build? So
oh man, it
make it a
used to
two-part
be.
question. What's your favorite grade to build versus what's your favorite grade to customize?
Oh, yeah.
Um, well, I've mostly customized HGs. I've only just started to mess with recently master grade like customizing. Um, oh man, is that the right way? I don't know. Man, that's a tough one. Most of the ones I've finished have been HGs.
Yeah,
That's a good way to put it. Most of the ones I've finished have been HGs.
yeah,
But the ones I'm the most excited about are probably my masteries because they have so much more surface area and you can make smaller details a little bit easier because they're bigger.
yeah.
Oh man, because I was doing it's still in the work in progress, but I was doing a ground Gundam that was like part goof. There's an old image from some manga of like a ground Gundam that's been repaired with goof parts. So like half its head is a Zaku head, and like it's got the goof arm with the sword, and it's really
That's
gnarly looking.
awesome.
And I was building that, and I had so much fun with it. It just got to the point where it was just like I got to work on something else, and I put it in a box. Well, it's in the case. Um, yeah, that was fun. I've done a couple of HGs. They're just simpler, I guess. You can do them a little quicker.
Yeah,
Glue everything together and paint them. Um, man, that's a tough question. That's
Yeah,
a
you know what?
good thinker.
I think Steven and I have talked about this, but never really posed it as a question. I do think that is a good question because I was running through my head. I like building real grades. Actually,
Hmm.
my
I do
first
too.
so
Gunpla was
satisfying.
the full armor unicorn. Um,
Wow.
yeah, because that's how I got into Gundam. I built this full armor unicorn, and I'm like, holy crap, this thing is awesome. But high grades, they're a quick build, and there's so many missing details that I need to detail, and so I think
Yeah.
that's why I like to
Mm,
detail high grades a lot.
I like that. That's nice. Because yeah, I did a Fenix, the HG Fenix, a couple years ago, and I just went and added a couple panel lines and flop plate here and there and whatever. But I'm really happy with it. And it's just like you can add that little bit of simple to an HG and pop it. Sometimes I feel like master grades, you have to get lost in the weeds to really get something out of it, and that can be a little frustrating.
Yeah, it's bigger, and this reminds me of, like, I like collecting action figures, and I
Mm,
prefer the old school GI Joe or Star Wars scale figures because the bigger they
mm,
are, the more detail there has to be, and then the more and not that this is a bad thing, but the more doll-like it comes out instead
yeah,
of more of representation, like, I'm trying to represent, like, a battle or
makes
something with
sense.
these things,
Yeah,
and, yeah, if it's too detailed, like the Master Grade, yeah, you get lost in the weeds because you really have to
mm,
then make it look
yeah,
right because it's that much bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the way I've always felt about, master grades and real grades for that matters. It's like, dude, I love all of the internals and the
hmm,
mechanics and things like that. Like, it's very cool to see. But then as far as customization, like, once I paint it, I'm like, no one's ever gonna see the inside of it, so
yeah,
I, like, could not
yeah,
care less. I
yeah.
just
Because the whole concept of like, well, you know, it's there. I'm like, man, Why? I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me paint my pilot real quick and then like
Yeah.
shove them into a hole where they're never going to be seen again.
Or on the box, I'll see like they build it where it's just the inner frame, and I'm like, wow, that looks cool, but I'll probably never do that. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna finish it,
Yeah.
even though it's like one day I'm like, I want to do that, but
That's what clear kits are good for, right? You can,
yeah, there
because
you
I
go.
love like mechanical clear kits where the frame is like solid or metal, and then the outside is the mechanical, and you can see right through it. Oh, those are cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
that.
Or when you like half and half it and you do
Oh
like half
yeah,
clear kit,
Yeah.
half opaque, that's pretty sweet.
those are cool too. I saw somebody recently did it with a Sinanju, but they highlighted all of the clear parts somehow. I don't know what they did with a UV marker or something, UV paint
Oh,
maybe.
that's awesome.
And it was like when they hit it, it lit up. So it was like a normal model, and then the other side glowed where all the panels were on the clear. It was cool.
That's so sick.
Well, that
Yeah.
is neat because I was looking at getting after building this clear color Freedom MGSD. I was looking at a Penelope, a high grade Penelope that was a clear color. I was like, I might do that. And then I saw that there's these third party stickers that are like holographic or something like
Oh,
that.
cool.
So I was like, wow, clear color Penelope with those holographic stickers. That would actually look pretty neat.
That would have been really cool, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, as we're about to wrap up here, I want to ask, like, what is your most anticipated build this year?
Oh man. I would really much like to finish what I'm working on. I know that's a holdover. Um, I have a couple things in my backlog that I really want to attack this year. So we'll see if
And
they're happening. So
I
I'm
know
not
you
gonna.
just picked up the monument,
I did
the
pick up the monument. I got it like real early when it came out.
the
I
not geese.
did not the long duck. That's what I call it, the long duck.
There you go, long duck.
Because if you don't know me, Tuggies is like my piece de resistance.
Wow. Okay.
Like
So
when the board game comes out, I'm going to buy that one set just for Tuggies.
Oh, that's cool.
But that you answered it for me. I'm painting a Tuggies this year. I haven't. I have all the Tuggies. I have never painted one. I'm painting my baby this year, whether it's the monument or just something else. I don't care. So,
do you think you'll take the monument and go for like an anime accurate?
yes, if I whenever I do it, because the TV Tuggies that's the one I like.
That's
The
the one.
Tokis, yeah, that's the one. That's the baby. So whether I do the MG, the RG, or the monument, that's the colors I'm going to do: the white and the black. So
Hell yeah, man, that's my favorite one.
yeah, man.
Well, I can't wait to see it. And for anybody who is in the area, or even if you're just going to be around the area, definitely pop by next month, the 20th, 22nd.
22nd. So the last Saturday of February.
Yeah, pop in for ODO. I'm going to be there. Obviously, Nick's going to be there. He has to be there. He doesn't
I have to be there. Not anymore.
Yeah. So yeah, come see some of like, obviously I know RVAGunpla is going to bring the heat as always, but then also just seeing some of the fantastic IPMS builders and like
Yes.
truly get inspired by what these guys can do. So it's at the Richmond Raceway, the 22nd, last Saturday in February. Come say hi if you do. Adam, as always, thank you for co-hosting, for keeping it lively, and Nick, thank you for joining us. Like I said, this was long overdue. Do you have anything you want to any parting words you want to share with everybody?
What does my sticker say? Build, learn, grow, repeat. Keep doing it. Keep making cool stuff. Yeah, ODS in 22nd. I'm gonna plug a few things if that's cool.
Yeah, please do.
ODO is February 22nd. Nationals is in August. It's the 6th to the 9th in Hampton Roads. Come out, hang out with us. If you're local to Virginia or 95, Fairfax has a IPMS show in April on the 12th.
That's my
The Fairfax
backyard.
High School. Yeah, that's One Punch Sam's group. She hangs out up there. I'll be up there too. I always go support them and hang out with them. They're like
Sweet.
one of my other hobby groups I hang out with. And then the other big show is in April as well. I'm putting together a hobby contest at Hobby Town with Coop and a couple other people. We're calling it the Gundam Grand Slam, the Virginia Gundam Grand Slam. There's 4 hobby towns in Virginia, and 3 of them have sizable Gundam groups, and we all kind of, we've talked for years about tit for tatting and like getting together and doing a big thing, and we're going to do it this year. We have Hobby Town's full support. I'm putting it on. I will probably be judging it, I'm sure. We're gonna have 8 or 9 categories. We'll probably do a speed build. We'll do giveaways. We're still hammering out all the details, but it's gonna be a really good time. I'm gonna try to bring as many people from the VA Maryland area in as possible. It's gonna be a good time. You guys should come hang out. You know, maybe do like a show there. I don't know, something
That
fun.
would be
We'll,
awesome.
You know,
we'll
I'm
have our photographer. Come hang out with us every Friday at Hobbytown, and then we do the last Saturday of every month. We're there all day long, so come hang out.
sweet, dude. I'm
Thanks,
looking
guys.
forward to it. Well,
Yeah.
cheers, everybody. Have a good rest of your night, and we will catch you tomorrow on the Gundam Explained show.
That's
Thanks,
right.
guys.
See
Appreciate it.
y'all.